This is a public meeting of the Lowell Zoning Board of Appeals for October 27th, 2014. Before we get started, if everybody could check your electronic devices, make sure your cell phones aren't on, or if they're on, could you please turn them down or turn them off? And secondly, if you plan on addressing the board, if you could sign in at the podium with your name and address. First matter before us is under new business. This is ZB 2014-55, the petition's a variance. The applicant is the City of Lowell. The property is located at 224 1 Jackson Street, and the petition is the applicant is seeking variance approval for the proposed lot 17 in the Hamilton Canal District. The relief sought is in regards to the proposed height for a future building development. The site requires variance approval under section 10.3.8, 2 and 3 of the HCD form-based code and Lowell zoning ordinance. So, representative for the city here, please. Morning, Mr. Manager. Morning, Ms. Manager. Good evening, Mr. Manager.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the board. Kevin J. Murphy, 63 Newberry Street, Lowell, Massachusetts. I'm here in my role as city manager for the City of Lowell this evening. It's no secret, I'm sure you've read it in the papers and heard it in the city, is that we are working very closely with an existing Lowell business to remain here in Lowell. They are going to be relocating their corporate headquarters, and what we are doing is we are doing whatever we can possible to make sure that they stay in Lowell and specifically come to the Hamilton Canal District. This would be a win-win for the City of Lowell because not only would we be keeping this corporate headquarters in downtown Lowell, but in my mind, we would be jump-starting the Hamilton Canal development that has laid dormant for some period of time. Tonight, we're talking about parcel 17. Parcel 17, to me, is probably the most visible parcel in the Hamilton Canal District. If you just envision yourself coming over the lot overpass and coming down the ramp towards Dutton Street, parcel 17 is right there at that street level, and it's going to be a very, very visible parcel to develop. The issue, though, is in working with this Lowell business is that we've discovered is that their space needs are more than what's allowed right now on parcel 17. Right now, it's a 4-story building that is allowed there. What they need is 6 stories. So what we're doing is we are coming here before you this evening on behalf of the City of Lowell to request that you grant a variance for parcel 17 to allow the construction of a building 6 stories in height rather than the allowable 4. I thought it might be good to have Craig Thomas come here this evening from the Division of Planning and Development, just to give a very brief overview of the Hamilton Canal District and what parcel 17 means to it. Mr. Chairman, I feel so old tonight is that Mr. Thomas, Mr. Jinowitz went to high school with our children, and here we are listening to what they think should be done in the city now. So they're terrific people, and I just call up Mr. Thomas right now to explain the Hamilton Canal District. Thank you, Craig.
If I can operate the mouse. Well, thank you, Mr. Manager. Again, I'm Craig Thomas, the Urban Renewal Project Manager here in the City of Lowell. There we go. And I'm not going to try and add anything to what the manager said. Rather, this is just a little bit more specific information so you can try and visualize parcel 17 in your mind, but it's very, very brief here. So the Hamilton Canal District, we've talked about it many times in many different forums, reinvents 15 acres adjacent to our downtown and reconnects it to the transit amenity at the Gallagher Terminal. The HCD master plan, which you see on the left, was developed through an award-winning public engagement process, and we really worked with all the stakeholders over the course of many months to determine the needs for our current and future residents to live on the site, to work on the site, and then to have parks and green space amenities. And all of that's balanced in the final plan here. So the master plan you see here, this is the vision when it's completed with the different buildings Parcel 17 you see here down on the end. And there are several sites, several renderings of down the different view corridors on the streets. So the total development impact, again, we've talked about this on many different occasions, and I think many folks are very familiar with this information, but millions of square feet of new development, many new housing units, the new trial court, hundreds of millions of dollars in investment, and new property taxes and jobs for the city of Lowell. To date, just to remind us again where we've come, this is the Appleton Mills, in the Hamilton Canal District between 2008 and 2014. You can see the change that has been made there, as well as the Freudenberg Building, similarly 2008 and 2014, now rechristened 110 Canal Building. So we talk about existing infrastructure over by the Appleton Mills and the Appleton Mills and 110 Canal here. We have roadways developed, and we have development sites here. You hear us talking about parcels 8 and 9, which is this green space here and this green space here. But over by the National Park lot, as the manager said, when you're coming down Dutton and Thorndike, there's really a lot of flat vacant areas, some that's currently used for parking and some that's simply used for snow storage in the winter, but otherwise is not part of the development mix just yet. But we see parcel 17 as critical to jumpstarting the development on the north side here. Parcels 15 and 16, these are signature commercial sites. These are very large and will take some time to plan, but in the interim, we're looking at ways to create incentives to be here and to create a feeling that these sites are ready to go and we can help market them better. Parcel 17 will do that for us as we help to build up the infrastructure to get to this iconic site on the corner. And so you can help visualize it. I had Mr. Janowitz pass out this overlay here, which shows the future parcels over what exists on the ground there. I found this very helpful to talk about the way the site looks now. And you'll see parcel 17 here is down on the end at the confluence of the canals at the swamp blocks. So specific to parcel 17, again, we have our 15 and 16. This is from the master plan, our planned signature commercial sites. We have a smaller building shown here on 17, but it occupies an incredibly iconic site at the confluence of the canals. When we were doing the planning, it didn't really garner a lot of significant development interest. We'd had conversations with the National Park Service about some sort of interpretive site there, but you saw hopefully the letter of support from the park that they've moved away from that plan and have used other sites for those interpretive needs. So when we look at what's available to us, it's this grass area here. It's about 8,750 feet. And we have had several parties contact us, and we were in very deliberate negotiations to try and find a really great way to make this headquarters project happen. However, we have really significant constraints. Looking at the specific language needed for variance approvals, it's bounded by the canals with a water differential on each side, such that we can't go down into the soil. It has to be at-grade construction. In addition, the shape is defined not just by the edges of the canals, but on the backside by DCR and trolley, Lowell trolley right-of-way. So there's not really an opportunity to modify in any way the proposed parcel layout. So we're seeking relief to construct a 6-story building to allow us to meet that vision of the Hamilton Canal District of commercial development on the site, but in particular, to have something that's really an iconic building that can help jumpstart the development on the northern side. And what you see from the height that we're pursuing is the 6 stories is about in line with what we have for the giant furniture building, 110 Canal Building, and then the large commercial buildings on parcels 15 and 16 that are proposed later. So again, this is the north site, and we're very hopeful that development here on parcel 17 will help to kickstart the development on the northern side. So.
Anything else you'd like to
No.
present?
Are there any questions from the board? Thank you, Chairman.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to have any questions at this point. I'll just open it up to the public. Anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none. That portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. I'd like to open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question for Mr. Thomas, if he doesn't mind, or the manager.
Sure.
Why was this parcel, or why was the code written so that this parcel originally would only be 4 stories high, and the surrounding ones are allowed to be 6?
It's an interesting question, and
odd.
looking back in the development of the plan, it really seems that there wasn't a lot of interest in that specific site. And so while we were looking for the right fit, each and every parcel, we talked through a lot of the really specific development projects that could go there. The National Park came up with this idea of an interpretive site, so the building was meant more to fit that. But somehow was overlooked that the other peninsula, where Point Park is now, which has large buildings proposed and is an equally iconic site, this is equally marketable, and in some ways, the centerpiece when you're coming into downtown is the gateway to the city. And so when this idea came to us, everyone said, this absolutely makes sense.
All right, thanks. That was the only question I had, and then my comment was related to, although I don't have a copy of it in front of me, you mentioned the National Park submitted a letter in favor of the change in the code. So that would have been my only concern, but like you said, the park was going to use the site and then decided not to, and now they're in favor of increasing the height by a couple of stories, and I don't have any issues with that, so thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Van?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Through you, again, great presentation by Mr. Thomas. I think relief can be granted on this project. It only makes sense, and like you said, in your summary, it meets the demands of the market, so it's totally makes sense to grant relief to make it 2 more stories. So I have no objections. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through Mr. Chairman, I do have some questions actually for you, Mr. Thomas, but I just want to think that this is a nice correction, I think, for us, the opportunity to have the 6 stories here that I think makes it feel right. So it's a nice correction. The height of the courthouse next door is, what, 8 stories, or how many stories is that?
Well, it's
That seems to be
unfortunately a
even more
somewhat
than
complex
6.
answer. The court, we know, will have at least 5 floors that are independent courts. In addition to that, there will be other uses on the site that will dictate a final height that's probably high, that's definitely higher than this height.
Sure.
Unfortunately, this might not be broken, but it's actually a little farther away from the site. As the manager pointed out, when you come down the ramp, the court is sort of tucked into that area, that low area right on your right. And so even though the court will be one of the taller buildings in that area, it's actually tucked in a little bit such that it feels a little bit lower. But when you come down to grade and you're out by the Sun Building or by 305 Dutton, this will be off to your right in among other buildings of a similar scale.
Right. The footprint, you said, of the site is around almost 9,000 square feet. The footprint of the building, do you have an idea as to what you're looking at there?
We have a sense that of what it will be, but something we're not seeking to deviate from the Hamilton Canal District form-based code is the coverage of the site, which is between 75 and 100. So no less than 75, but no more than 100, obviously, which they couldn't do. But the exact number needs to be worked out, because this is sort of still in the stage of figuring out if we can really make this project work, and this is a really critical part of that. So I think that will be a future step to nail that down exactly.
Well, if it were 7,500 or so range of square footage, then the total added 2 stories would represent roughly 15,000 square feet, maybe in that range.
Yeah, the total square footage will be similar to, say, 110 Canal Street, slightly smaller.
How is the parking handled for that additional square footage?
So this is a very good question.
Oh.
Oh, wait, do I have it now? Oh, I have it now, okay. All right, so let's go back. And it's a very good question, and actually what I didn't want to put on here, because I didn't want to have too many unreadable graphics, although apparently this one fits in that category. Well, actually, let's use this one, is what the plan is here. So as I said, we're trying to use parcel 17 to be a catalyst to jumpstart development on this side of the Hamilton Canal District. Again, I apologize for anyone who can't see this, but I'll try and do it on both so it's a little clearer. On the sheets that you have in front of you, what we're proposing to build to support this development, but also to support all of the other parcels on that side. So again, once we lay the infrastructure for a more manageable single building here, it will support 15 and 16, which are really large signature properties. We're proposing to build streets in here and in here. So build out access to parcel 17, where again, currently no access exists. And there are two parking sites. Ultimately, the parking for this portion of the Hamilton Canal District, as well as some near the Appleton Mills, will be this big pink building 14. 14 is a future parking garage, a very large one. In the interim, Similarly to what we did by 110 Canal Street, if you've been out there, you know that there's a surface parking lot, which is a temporary lot until the garage is built, so that 110 Canal has parking. We're proposing a parking lot in the area of sites 11, 12, and 13. Again, 12 and 13 are small park sites on this side, and 11 is a residential site. So in the interim, with a roadway and well over 100 parking spaces, actually over 150, there will be parking here both for potential tenants of parcel 17, as well as what we need to get us started in our development conversations for 15 and 16. That's why this single development, while incredibly exciting in and of itself, has the potential to jumpstart all of the rest of the development on that side.
Great. Wow. That's pretty exciting.
The state delegation has applied for a $5 million grant. That what we would do is we would have additional access to this site through Dutton Street, and also to have surface parking for approximately 175 vehicles, which will service this client. And so there's plenty of parking there for the proposed use. I mean, we believe that there's plenty of parking in the early garage, but this would make it much closer to the building and much more beneficial to that building. But 175 spaces is projected to be built as part of that grant.
No, it seems like it's well thought out with the parking being tucked behind and allowing that signature buildings to still happen. Well thought out plan. Thank you. Good presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. As always, Mr. Thomas, very well prepared. Your entire department is always up to speed and always in the forward-thinking process of these big programs that we have going on. I think anytime we can keep a corporate business in the city and be a signature site on a development such as this property, I did have a little thought process on the parking, but as the Lord overpass comes with public transportation, I think that's going to decrease as well with the garage and the space. So we always need something to jumpstart this project. The christening we had there just the other day shows that we're moving in the right direction. Our delegation is working hard. Well, they're missing a starting first baseman. It's the city has gained. The city manager taking hold of this project and moving forward. So I wish to see this development move much quicker and swifter and be a big part of the process. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gary. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank you, Mr. Thomas, and Mr. Manager, for the presentation. I'm glad to see the project is slowly but surely starting to take fold and moving on. And if it is granted, and the fact that we can possibly keep a local business in-house and in downtown would be beneficial and a boondog to the project too. So I wish you luck. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think a couple of things are key here as far as we look at the variance, the special hardship, the public good, and the intent of the zoning. I believe the petitioner has shown that they've met all of those. I know Mr. Thomas mentioned about the shape of the lot, which falls into the category of the special hardship. So I believe the petitioner in this case has shown that there is a relief that can be granted. Second of all, the manager mentioned, we got a local company that's looking to occupy this, and I think that's a great thing for the city and for the site. And if it's going to be a signature site, I think that even lends itself as a good thing for the city and almost like a flagship coming into the downtown area. On the top of the building, is it just going to be regular roof and any mechanical, air conditioning units, stuff like that? Any idea about that?
So the Hamilton Canal Form-Based Code is a pre-permitting process for these sites. What it does not pre-permit is historic board review. So historic board has a review of sort of the skin or the outside of the buildings. And for a site where we can't put utilities underground, which we've tried to look for opportunities in the Hamilton Canal, what we've started to talk about is a situation where the utilities would be on the roof, again, which is part of the reason we need so much extra height, but that there'd be a faux story such that it would be partially enclosed around the utilities. I know it's always a concern that we talk about downtown with our historic properties, and some of the very preliminary architectural work that we've discussed has some really innovative ways to build it into the fabric of the building so you wouldn't actually notice it as utility space.
And I know there was no mention about historical, but I kind of assume, but I didn't want to, that really wasn't part of the question, but I think he answered my question anyways. So I think, based on the responses and the questions that the board had, I'm in full support. Again, I believe the petitioners met the prerequisites of the variance. And any other questions, comments? I don't think we need any conditions. So with that said, if I could have a motion, please.
Agree, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-055 for variance for 224.1 Jackson Street for the proposed lot 17 in Hamilton Canal District.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Palia?
Approved?
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approved.
Okay, Mr. Thomas, Mr. Manager, thank you very much. Wish you the best of luck.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, once again, you've proven what a great board you are to help out the city of Lowell and progress into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2014-56, petitions of variance. The applicant is Gene Manley. The property is located at 50 Garden Road. And the petition, the applicant is seeking variance approval to exceed the maximum curb opening allowance by 10 feet. The petitioner is seeking relief under section 6.11 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Jack Sullivan, Gavin & Sullivan Architects in Lowell. With me tonight is Mr. Gene Manley, homeowner, and Mr. Dan Donahue, project manager. I have a handout, Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Sure, absolutely. Yep. Sir, thank you. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, as stated, we are here tonight seeking relief from section 6.1.10 that requires a maximum 15-foot curb cut. Before you is, on the front page, is what we are requesting, a 25-foot curb cut. The second page shows the 15-foot, which we have a permit for at this point. The 15-foot is just very restrictive as far as getting that third car into the right, because we are 30 feet off the lot line. If you're familiar with Garden Road is a very heavily traveled throughway to the Riley and Sullivan School, not only with vehicles, but also pedestrian. So we are trying to keep all the cars off of the street. This house that we're building, I don't know if you're familiar with it, is a multi-generational house. It's for Mr. Manley, Miss Carolyn Cox, her elderly mother, and at times her sister. So there will be at least 3, maybe 4 cars at this house at the time, so we're preparing to keep everybody off the road. We don't think that we will denigrate from the existing neighborhood. Majority of the curb cuts in this area, first, a lot of lots have multiple curb cuts, but the majority are well over 15 feet. Some is up to 30 feet. So we're here tonight to request that.
Okay. And I know the comment you made regarding the neighborhood and curb cuts in that neighborhood. I know there were comments that we received from the city on that, so that's consistent with observations that they made. And with that said, if you have nothing else, I'm going to open it.
Yeah, I do
Sure,
have
go
one
ahead.
more statement. Mr. Jinowitz, the assistant planner, had some concern about our third bay, and our initial thought was to be 3 feet off the easterly lot line. We have since cut that back to 9'6". So
Okay.
we're well off the lot line.
Okay, sure. Anything else like that?
No, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So with that, I'll open it up to the public. Does anyone here like to speak in favor of this petition? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. We'll open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any issue with the curb cut being extended from, from 15 to 25, because going out to the site Monday last weekend, I did notice that the way the driveway is currently designed, even in that condition, would be difficult for two cars to back in and out. My question is related to the comments from DPD. I guess I'm just wondering why, if you have a two-car garage and then space for two cars, one to park in front of each garage, so that's parking for four, why that extra area is needed off to the right? Because what is there, a utility? There'll be a utility room?
No, that's the stairway to the right that goes down to the basement.
Oh, okay.
And the extra space is Mr. Manley collects antique cars, so that's just again, keep everything off the street.
So the antique cars maybe are in the garage?
One of them would be, yeah.
And then the cars that are being used by the family or other people are...
Could be outside or in these spaces, yeah.
Okay. Well, I am happy to see that that you did pull the driveway.
Yes.
But you said you're pulling it back to 9.6 from 3?
9.5 feet instead of 3 on the easterly lot line, yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, again, I'm still a little concerned. It's a real big surface area if that were all to be paved, but I'll wait and hear what the other
Yeah,
members of the
and also the
board...
paving material, if I may, is not hot top. We're going to go with pavers, which are much softer to the eye.
Okay.
So I think
Like the
that's
house
important.
across the street where Mr. Manley currently lives?
That's exactly
Okay.
right, yeah. He has a lot to say about that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Van?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I drove by the site earlier today, and it is a little difficult to get, I think, one or two cars through that existing driveway. And when I look at that driveway and I compare it to the surrounding neighborhood and properties, it would fit in and make sense. So I feel that, I think relief could be granted, and it wouldn't, it would keep in line with the characteristic of the whole neighborhood and the street. So I think me personally, I don't have an issue with this petition, and, I would support it. So, thank you.
Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I just want to comment on, this is a great improvement, having that 9'6" on that side yard. It really doesn't, you got a lot on this lot. I was surprised at and to hear, could you just explain the multi-generational aspect again?
Well,
of
it's
the house?
Mr. Manley and Carolyn Cox. It's Miss Cox's elderly mother and her sister, who works out of state.
Great.
But when she comes in state, we'll be staying there. And the house is designed for that.
Yeah, that's, and you've tucked in the cars so well, because they really don't have a big impact visually like sometimes they do. And it fits so well in that neighborhood. I mean, it really enhances the neighborhood if you could possibly do that in that,
Yeah.
that nice
Well,
part of the city, so.
To speak to that, all the neighbors are improving their properties right now. I mean, it grows. It really does. So we're very happy with that.
I think the 15 feet here is just a real difficult thing to, I mean, you would expect two-car garage, and so
Yeah.
having 15 feet really does seem to be nearly a mistake in the zoning.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot of sense. Nice job. Very
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I went by the site and I measured all the driveways. One is well over hitting 24 inches, 24 feet, 8 inches. Certainly am very familiar with the area. Unfortunately, there's a lot of traffic flow through, so I think, the mindset of keeping the cars off the street is great intact. I did a measurement. You're well over 30 feet from curb cut to garage. You're pushing almost 36 there, so I think the additional 5 feet, 10 feet there think the restriction at 15 feet is kind of a tough pill to swallow as a resident. So overall, I mean, it's a fantastic property, and you're correct, it's contagious.
It is.
You can see it going down and down the street, so I'm in full support of this. I wish you the best of luck over there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I happened to drive by this past weekend, the property, and it looks very nice and very well maintained. Unfortunately, I did have concerns about the setback, but you simply eased my concerns on that now by extending it to 9.6 feet. And I noticed all the other places in the area too that seem to be similar in nature, and it seems to be pretty much in conjunction with everybody else. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'm in full support with my board members, and again, if we look at the prerequisites for the variance to be granted, to me, first of all, you know, to be talking about just the width of a driveway based on what else has gone on there is, I think to Dennis's point, kind of interesting, but that's not why we're on the board. But I think, you know, granting this, and if I, again, look at the special hardship section, it's not going to affect generally the zoning district because, as was noted from the city, there are many other properties that have driveways that are greater than zoning. So I think it lends itself nicely to the area. Mr. Manley's lived in the area for a while now, so I don't think he's coming in to disrupt the neighborhood. I'm sure people that live in that neighborhood are very happy with the finished product that's there, and it lends itself well. So with that said, I don't believe any conditions, any other comments, any other board members? Sure. Okay. Yep. So one condition that Dennis is talking about is just to accept the handout this evening.
Oh, sure.
That'll be the only condition. All right, could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-56 for variance for 50 Garden Road for exceeding the curb cut allowance by 10 feet with the condition that we accept the site plan as submitted dated October 27, 2014.
Have a second?
Second the motion.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve with condition.
Mr. Palia?
Approved with condition.
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with condition.
Okay, sir. And Mr. Manley, you've been approved with conditions?
Okay.
So best of luck.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
Board.
Have a good evening.
Good luck.
You're welcome. Okay, next matter before us is ZB 2014-57, the petitions of variance. The applicant is Molly Cho, the property located at 9 Kinsman Street. And the petition, the applicant is seeking variance approval to expand a driveway without meeting setback requirements. The petitioner is seeking relief under 6.1.1 of the Lowell zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yep.
Hi. Today we come down here to ask a special permit for a variance to make a paving because our house we purchased it and get no any parking. We would like to get our vehicle off the street. Plus 9 Kingsman Street is kind of like narrow.
Yep.
And every day in Wednesday, dump truck drive over is very hard to get through. And take him, sometimes he have to loop around for the next trip to get the trash. So we decide like get our vehicle off the streets and park out the back of our house. And it might easier and keep the street clear, good for the winter, and the city plow can go through easy.
Yep.
And plus, why I do that, couple months ago, our neighbor has a 911 call, and the fire truck couldn't go through. That's why I think it's good for us to have the vehicle parked off the street.
Right.
And it kind of like small, but I hope it work out good for us.
Sure. Yeah, I know when I took it right out to your property, that was the first thing I noticed, that there's parking on each side of the street. You can only get one car down.
Yeah.
And I could see where emergency vehicle would have a lot of difficulty trying to maneuver down there. And I'm sure, as you mentioned, with snow, I'm sure it even gets that much worse. So when you were telling us about your plans, are you planning on putting just one car in the side?
On our plan, we try to like make a paving on the back of the house, like park for 2 vehicles, my wife and I.
Okay, so you want to try to fit 2 vehicles in there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And are they going to be parked behind your home, or are they going to be
Yeah,
parked?
behind.
Behind, okay.
Yeah.
All right. How long have you lived there, sir?
We just moved in last month.
Yeah,
We
okay.
just purchased it.
Yeah. No, it doesn't, I was just curious how long you've been there. That's, it's not a prerequisite.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I hope it could work out.
Sure.
And plus, he's my neighbor too.
Okay. All right, if you don't have anything else, I'm going to open it up to the public, and then some of the board members may ask you a few questions, okay?
Okay, yeah.
All right. So is there anyone here that'd like to speak in favor of this petition? Yes, sir. If you can come up to the podium, please. Just give us your name and address, sir.
Good evening, sir. My name is Sean Maloney. I reside at 125 Luce Street here in the city, and I've been the property owner next door at 5 Kidsman Street since 2011.
Okay.
I stand here tonight before the board in full support of Mr. Chu's application for a variance in the belief that it would be mutually beneficial to both property owners. For the reasons that he had mentioned, that it would remove his vehicles from the street and allow for more open passage of traffic on Kinsman Street. I'm sure you've seen how congested it is, especially difficult for emergency vehicles, large ones like fire trucks, to traverse the street. And what he's asking, excuse me, is certainly reasonable in my view. And I was actually waiting for the purchase to be complete for that property next door to mine. It had been for sale for quite some time, so that I could meet the new owner and discuss a mutually beneficial paving project, so that we could both pave our driveways at the same time to improve our properties as well as the overall character of the neighborhood, sir.
So you said you're at number 5?
Yes, sir.
So if I'm facing his property, are you on the right?
To the right.
Okay, which you have a driveway in there currently, right?
I do, sir.
Yep. So I know one of the questions was, there's a fence that's currently up. Is that this gentleman's fence, or is that yours?
That is his fence, sir.
Yep. Okay. So how does the fence come into play with the paving?
The fence will move closer to my house by several inches, which will still allow for the passage of a single vehicle alongside my property. So I'll still maintain a driveway. He'll gain a driveway. And by completing the paving project at the same time, we'll make sure that the paving contractor or contractors are able to angle the paving so that neither building owner has runoff of rainwater heading directly into their basement.
Yep. Okay. Anything else you'd like to add, sir?
That's it, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak in favor? In favor? In favor? Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? 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 Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Going to open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I had was partially answered in regard to the fence, but I do have a quick question for you, if you don't mind. And now that your neighbor is here discussing his own paving job, You provided us with plans, including an area at the back of the
Yeah.
proposed driveway, a dissipation area for the rainwater, and it's probably not appropriate for me to ask his neighbor if he's planning the same. I mean, he did say that the two of you would work together to, so I'm hoping that if you relocate your fence and create your own driveway and put in an area for the stormwater to run off,
Yeah.
that your neighbor's driveway, when it's reconstructed, keeps his water on his side of the property. Because again, I wouldn't want you to be solely responsible for all the runoff, because you're essentially going to be creating this large parking area separated by a chain link fence. So, but I'm certainly in favor of, I mean, that's obviously a neighborhood that was built before people drove automobiles. Dennis and the chairman might remember those days. I don't. But it's just one of those old neighborhoods that obviously decades or 100 years later, people drive now, and it was just never designed for on-street or off-street parking. So, but I'm in favor of this. I think it's going to help you. And I also drove through the neighborhood last Friday, and it is a really tight area. There was some utility work going on across the street, and there was a officer working a detail there because he had to direct traffic, one vehicle at a time around the construction area. So I guess that was a long-winded question or comment, I'm not sure, but that's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Both. Okay. Van?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a chance to drive there over the weekend to check out the site, and I do agree that it's a small, tight road, and anytime when we can get cars off the roads, off the street, and onto the property, it's a good thing. Like the petitioner just said, it's easier for traffic to go through, emergency vehicles, so it makes sense. And the petitioner got his neighbor to agree, and they can work out all the details. But I think overall, I think this is a good plan, and I think relief could be granted. So I support this. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Van. Dennis?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I have a couple of questions. I want to start actually with Joe first, though, please. The street's 35 feet as a right-of-way. It's very narrow. And so I'm just trying to figure out the math here. How do we have streets like this that you allow parking? Is parking allowed on both sides of the street?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm hearing about cars parking on both sides of the street. It seems like it would be a little narrow for that. We could
You do the math, it's about 11 feet left over to navigate
a
a
little
truck.
bit wider. Usually your typical parking space on the street is usually looked at about 8 feet.
You're almost forced to park on the sidewalk
I'm sure there are a number of vehicles that probably
in
do
order
that.
to manage it.
Yeah.
It's just a real, I mean, putting in this driveway, thank you, I mean, thank you. It just, it cries for getting your car off that street, just because it seems like a dangerous situation for your car. Never mind people trying to navigate the street. So,
The reason I wish to do that a lot because a couple neighbor in front of my house, they doesn't have any parking space or driveway at all. So they have two vehicles parked in front of the space. So two neighbors, I mean 4 on the sidewalk, on the street. So why I have opportunity to do the paving and move off the street, get my neighbor, access. And plus, I've been there not so long. They all nice to me and all good person.
you only have 8 feet, 8 inches, or 8 feet, 9 inches, something like that, as a width there. So it is rather confined for vehicles to maneuver on the side of your house there too. So you feel confident with that dimension though, as far as being able to manage that?
Yeah, we will get a small vehicle.
You might want to continue having a small
That's the
vehicle.
best we can do.
The flow of water going onto the street's a concern. So it seems like a flat site for the most part.
I did the level check from the front of my house to the real back of the fence. It about more than a foot up. So the back fence is lower than the front. So I don't see the water going on the street in storm time.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, and you have plenty of green space, so this is a nice addition. I think that it makes total sense to do this, but I think we should look at having parking on just one side of the street here. Or maybe even one way and parking on one side of the street or something.
Because most of the street on those areas are already one way. So why they park like that? Because from Floyd Street and the other street, they are one way, and everybody just rush out on Kingsman Street, the only street that has two way.
Right.
That's why people just park down there. The other street is one way and one side parking. Some neighbor, they just park on Kingsman Street and walk home, something like that. So it's to be nice to park off the street.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
Through you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, welcome to Lowell.
Thank you.
You know, it's a very congested street. We're all very aware of it. I went to the site. Took me longer to get in and out than it did to actually purvey the property. So your neighbor came in and spoke, and it's nice that neighbors are getting together to complete a project, each being separate project as they may, but there's gonna be some inclusion there. So I think it's a good project. I think that Dennis is right. It should be a one-way. I agree with 100%, and I hope that's not falling on deaf ears. I'm sure it's not. Our DPD is a good department. So I was concerned as well with that 8-foot space. Prius sounds like a nice car at this point, but I do wish you the best of luck with that. With that, good luck.
Thank you. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cho, first I want to thank you. It was a pleasure to meet you earlier this afternoon. I stopped by the property to take a look at, and I was, looking at the street, and yeah, you're absolutely right. It's difficult to get around there, and to see that you had to actually park, and just to make a clearing, you actually have to park on the curb to let cars through was just, I just don't know how it could be done, but it was really nice to meet you, and I was glad. Thank you very much for showing me that. I'm glad that your neighbor is here, and he's cooperating. Actually, you guys are working out a cooperation that would try to get this done and get some of the cars off the road and take off some of the congestion of that street. So I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Is there, on the street, I didn't even look, but is there permitted parking? In other words, do you get one spot for each residence? I didn't even notice. Is there, you know what I'm talking about? Is it permitted parking, or is it just open parking to anybody?
As far as I know, it's open parking. I could certainly look
Okay.
into see if it's residential sticker parking, but I don't believe it is.
Okay. Yeah, because I was just thinking if this gentleman was able to get a couple of cars off and he had a visitor or something, then they actually have 3 spaces as opposed to 2. But, and the other question I have is, as some of the board members mentioned, it's great that you came down with a new neighbor and you'd like to work together. The only question I have is, so Joe, if they move the fence, what does that really mean as far as property lines and, something happens down the road and people don't get along? I mean, I just want to make sure I understand what the options are here.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean a whole lot in terms of any relocating property line or anything. The property lines are what they are now. The fence is in a little bit based on the site plan, off the property line. So it sounds like the plan is to relocate the fence on the property line itself. And the city doesn't have a setback requirement for a fence, so that would be fine to put a fence on the property line.
Just want to make sure did you want to say something, sir? Yeah.
No, sir, I just wanted to recheck his plot plan. It's a matter of several inches that he would be shifting onto
Yeah.
the area closer to my house.
Yeah,
That's it.
well, I heard moving the fence, and I didn't know if the fence was exactly on the line or not on the line. I just want to make sure there isn't, we grant something, and then all of a sudden, there's an issue, and then we're arguing about stuff. Oh, the other thing I would maybe suggest here, and it was in our notes from the city, that, you know, the city could also work with you, sir, but almost work with both parties to put this final thing together, you know, if you want to seek their help. I'd probably advise it, that way, it sounds like we're going to have a great finished plan. I think it's great you want to put a driveway in there and get your vehicles off the road and have some peace of mind, I guess, maybe I'll put it that way. So again, you're going to park 2 vehicles in back, but I would assume it also gives you the opportunity, if you had visitors or something, they can park there also, Joe. There's no restrictions on how many cars can be parked. Is that correct also?
Yeah, I mean, if they can really pull the vehicles such that they could get a visitor parking space or 2 on there, they can do that. There's no
Yep.
restriction on.
So when you throw that big party and you got 100 people coming, you can have them all parked there. Yeah, I know. Okay. Well, again, I appreciate you coming down, sir, and speaking on behalf of this gentleman. So do we have any comments, conditions? Yes, Dennis?
Mr. Chairman, I think we have one condition for the fence, to relocate the fence to follow the property line.
Okay, that's fine. Anything else? Anybody? No? Okay, could I have a motion, please?
Through Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-057 for a variance for 9 Kinsman Street to expand the driveway without meeting the required setbacks, with one condition, that the applicant relocate the fence, the existing fence, to follow the property line.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Bailey,
Approved with conditions.
Mrs. McCarthy,
Approve with condition.
Mr. Palia,
Approved with condition.
Mr. Peck,
Approve of conditions?
Mr. Perrin.
Approve with condition.
Okay, sir, you've been approved.
Thank you, sir.
Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay, our next matter before us is ZB 2014-58. It's a special permit. The applicant is Stonefield Engineering and Design LLC, property located at 777 Roger Street. Petition, the applicant is seeking special permit approval for operation of a drive-through bank ATM pursuant to section 12.4G2 of the zoning ordinance. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. My name is James Kanosian from Stonefield Engineering and Design. We're here tonight representing Bank of America as part of the proposed drive-through ATM kiosk project within the Hannaford Shopping Center parking lot. Tonight, as you specified, we're here for a special permit request in order to provide illuminated signage on our kiosk. What I have up here with me is the site plan that was prepared by our office that was submitted as part of the application. For discussion purposes, I've just flipped to C3, the site plan, C4, the site plan sheet. Just to give a quick background on the ATM location, it is in the northeastern portion of the parking lot. It's right next to the right-in, right-out egress along Rogers. And essentially what we did was we worked with the city to make sure we could conform as well as possible with the ordinance. And the only thing that was required for the special permit is the actual illuminated signage. So what you have here tonight is the standard Bank of America branding ATM package. As I'm sure you've seen with other banks in the city, the new wave for banking is the electronic ATM machine. Bank of America has been expanding their resources and looking to install these ATMs within some shopping center parking lots, as well as kind of doing away with the actual drive-up tellers at their own branches themselves and replacing them with the ATM machines. So what we have here, and actually to best represent it, included on our package was the kiosk drawing themselves. These are provided by Concept Unlimited. What I did was we provided a blow-up version of that is colorized. We can really see what the kiosk itself looks like. So there's a total of 4 wall signs altogether. A longer, thin version on the front and the rear that will indicate the Bank of America text and the logo. And then on each side is a smaller strip which just has the Bank of America logo. The front and the rear are approximately a little bit over 11 square feet in size, and the side signs are a little bit over 4 square feet in size. So relatively, especially speaking for a larger shopping center such as this, the signs are relatively small. As indicated by the planner in the planner's review letter dated October 22nd, 2014, the size of the signs does actually comply. The only thing we're here for is the illumination. So with that being said, how the illumination works is there are fluorescent tubes within the red stripe that you see. They're actually concealed from the eye, and the only illumination is presented as a low glow effect. The fluorescent tubes that are in the front and the rear are 30 watts, and the fluorescent tubes that are in the sides are 15 watts. So again, a minimal impact as far as illumination glow is concerned. Just a couple of things I would like to point out. The reason for Bank of America standard branding kiosk to have this signage is to provide for wayfinding and directional signage, both from Rogers Street as vehicles travel along the roadway, as well as once a vehicle is within the parking lot, so they can correctly and adequately maneuver and access the drive-through ATM. And the second point I'd like to make is that when the lights are on, it also confirms for potential customers that the ATM is in kiosk. It's open 24 hours a day. So throughout the night, it is the light does indicate that it is on, it is serviceable, and it is ready to be used. There are no other residences in the area. It is in the regional retail district, so there would be a de minimis impact on some of the surrounding areas, and really that would conclude the presentation. There are a number of other aspects about the ATM project, which if anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. Well, we'll leave any questions when the board starts addressing anything else you'd like to add.
No, that's all.
All right, so going to open it up to the public. Anyone here like to speak in favor? In favor, in favor? Hearing none, that portion of the public hearing is closed. Anyone like to speak in opposition? Opposition, opposition. Hearing none, that portion of public hearing is closed. Open it up to the board. Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions. Like the petitioner said, and the application and states that we're just really here to talk about illuminating the signs. So I don't have any questions about the design or anything else. I guess actually one question. You mentioned fluorescent lights, so I know other members of the board will probably ask if or why LED lights can't be used in this case?
Well, because the source isn't actually shown, it's really just the light coming through the red band and the text and the logo, if you will. So the source of the light isn't exactly going to look much different if it was high pressure sodium, pulse start metal halide, LED, as you said, or fluorescent. This is more typical of your standard signage that we've mounted on a building or something like that. If it was indirect illumination, then I think the source definitely gives it a different character if you were to have LED versus a different source. But since the source is actually concealed and it's more of a glow effect, that has just been Bank of America's standard practice.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Thank you, Mike. Van?
I don't really have any comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Dennis?
Okay, I have a couple questions. Thank you. The location of the sign takes away some existing parking.
Correct. Yes, there's currently going to be 11 spaces that are removed as part of the project to allow for a proper queuing length for customers to pull up and wait if the ATM is in use, and then they will recirculate back out into the drive aisle that runs parallel with Roger Street.
Okay. And then you're adding 2 additional light poles?
Yeah, there are 2 additional light poles being added. I'll flip back to the site plan. They're on each side of the kiosk themselves. Bank of America has very detailed internal standards as far as making sure there's enough safety lighting for the ATM use, particularly because it is in use throughout the night. These 2 fixtures are located here and here. Just one head on each fixture. There are a couple of canopy lights located in the canopy itself of the ATM. These lights would throw light away and kind of towards the back of the ATM, just to allow enough lighting around the area for their customers to feel safe to access this at night.
It's a lot of light.
It's a lot of light.
It's a lot of light.
To be honest with you, actually, compared to a lot, we've done many ATM projects all across the Northeast, and lighting is usually the point of contention because the bank themselves want to make sure it's bright enough to be deemed safe and for everyone to feel comfortable. And then, of course, many town ordinances have the understanding that it is very bright. So the landlord and the bank have worked together to present what they felt was a comfortable lighting sign.
I would like to just say that the LED fixture is what is the direction of lighting in general for signage, and it's a little disappointing that you've chosen to go back to the fluorescent, which is a throwback. It's a less efficient fixture and has mercury, so it's certainly a lesser product, and we really do. I personally like to see LED used in all cases for signage, especially for granting any special, internally illuminated signs. I'd like to see the LED fixture. Are you open to modifying this to use the LED?
To be honest with you, we have experimented with the LED fixtures in the light poles themselves. As far as inside the sign, I have not done any projects or applications where they've reworked their kiosk internally to provide an LED fixture. I could certainly take your response to the bank and see how practical it is and get their comments.
I'd like to see you even take it further and see if you can update the lighting package in general. The new pole lights, we're installing LED as exterior lighting in general for parking as a rule. And so not only are you not doing it on your kiosk signage, you're not doing it on your pole lights either. And you're down. So anyway, I feel that you could enhance the product quite a bit, especially for the signage, to move to the LED fixtures.
Okay. The one comment I would have on providing LED is that there are obviously a number of area lights within the shopping center.
Right.
So when you do provide an LED light, we all know how much crisper the light looks, and then compared to a metal halide light, it would certainly look different.
It'll look different because of the foot candle level being 14 times what you have in the rest of the parking lot, though. So I think you've already accomplished that.
Okay.
In any event, I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Gary?
3, Mr. Chairman. This is a similar footprint, ATM in parking lots and plazas I've seen. As you mentioned, throughout the Commonwealth, there's a couple in an adjacent town to the city. I must agree with Mr. McCarthy as it relates to LED lighting. We, as a board, over the last several years, we've made a point and a precedent to come into 2010, 11, and moving on, as my memory serves, is to be in that LED lighting. And I have to agree that it's a little disheartening to think the channel lighting, the interior lighting, it may be a Bank of America format. I'm not too sure with the corporation itself, but the parking lot lighting, certainly from my perspective, an overall, that candlelit difference between the interior, the exterior parking lot lighting and then having candlelit LED, I don't think is gonna make that much of a difference. I mean, that's my neighborhood. That place is Fenway Park from dusk until midnight, from front to back at Rogers Street. So I'd be interested to see in how and in which direction that you and your client would be in favor of at least having the discussion with us as it relates to LED.
Okay.
Only because that's the precedent this board has been setting over the last few years, and for us to have other petitioners agree, make concessions and conditions to their petitions. Standalone business owners have come in here, and entrepreneurs have come in here throughout the city and have agreed to this LED movement that we're looking at. So for me, that's where I'm leading towards. That's how, once the board is in a direction, I feel very strongly, and I think a few of my colleagues may feel that same direction. Not that it's a deal breaker or it's a vote maker, but I just like to see people coming in front of us being forward thinking and being in the mindset that the board and the city is in. So just food for thought.
Yeah, and speaking for Bank of America, having done a number of projects, I certainly don't think the area lights would be a concern to convert to LED. The only thing I'm just not sure of is that actual internal fixture that's screened behind the sign, just on feasibility and how much room they actually have to maneuver and construct it in there. I'm not saying it's not possible, I'm just saying I personally don't know, and since they have a separate kiosk manufacturer, I would just have to defer to them to make sure of that. But as far as the two new lights, I could certainly make that a condition.
I mean, certainly you bring it to the point that it's an operational format that Bank of America has a vendor, and they're their preferred vendor. We, being in business, we all enjoy being preferred vendors. So is that something that you're open to as a condition as far as the exterior pole lighting is it, for me, that's a good concession.
Yeah,
I'd feel comfortable moving in that direction. Just, like I said, just to be consistent of what we've been doing as a board.
Yes, I would.
So if you're amicable to that, I would prefer to have a condition that the exterior pole lighting be LED.
Okay, yes, we could agree to that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have any questions or comments. Thank you.
Okay. So Joe, while everybody was asking questions, we just received the comments today on this project, right, from the city?
That's correct.
And I was just listening to this gentleman responding to a couple of the questions from the members. I noticed there was nothing about the type of, it was mentioned about illumination, but it didn't talk to, and I can't disagree with the two, especially these two board members. We've been very consistent with the illumination, but, so how are we getting that? I'm not trying to use this gentleman or this petition as an example, but how are we getting that out to the petitioners when they are coming in for illumination? Because I don't even see anything mentioned here.
Yeah, it is something.
How do we get that message out, I guess,
It is something we typically mention to applicants, particularly for signage coming in front of this board. As Mr. Perrin mentioned, it's been something that's kind of been a standard for this board over the last few years. So anytime that we do see an application come in that doesn't show LED lighting, we do make a note to make applicants aware as they're submitting an application. This is something that's going to likely come up during the meeting, is that the board would like to see LED lighting utilized. And sometimes we even get a revised plan before the meeting. Sometimes it comes up during the meeting itself.
Yep. Okay, so that's why I'm kind of asking the question. Did you have any inkling that this might be coming up or not?
I actually did not, to be honest with you, but as I said before, working on a number of Bank of America projects, I know if it is a strong request from the board to install the exterior light poles as LED, they would be agreeable to that.
Yeah. And that's fine with me. I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable. I think that's a fair agreement between the parties, but I just want to make sure that, is that all you want to go with? You don't?
I want everything.
Yeah, no, I know that, but, no, and I think this gentleman had some, because when I was listening and we were talking about the landlord is obviously Hannaford, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, what type of lighting are they using out there? I noticed, when I pulled up, I actually went in the parking lot and all that, not that I've never been in that store or in that parking lot, but they don't even have a very oversized sign to begin with that's on the street. And so what type of lighting are they using out there? Do we have any idea?
I'm not sure, Mr. Chairman. I do believe the new freestanding sign that they got approved recently in front of this board will be utilizing LED technology. So it is something that they seem to be open to anyway.
So is the sign that's presently out there new or not new?
Hannaford is going to have a new sign with
Yep.
the McDonald's signage out there.
Okay. Because I thought I heard something about, well, if we put this type of lighting in, it's going to overshine over the landlords. I thought that's what I heard, something like that about brightness or something, but I would almost think the landlord would want to have consistent lighting, and I know you made a comment about what Bank of America wants to do. All right, I'm going too far with this, but I think, well, all I'm trying to say is there should be consistency on the site, and I would think if the landlord felt that strong about either or, they might have told Bank of America through your company, we want we want LED or we want fluorescent. All right, so again, the petitioner is here for a special permit for the illumination, and it's under the table of uses. And I believe this gentleman, has explained himself pretty well. And it sounds like we have one condition for the special permit, so could I have a motion, please?
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion for ZB 2014-058 for a special permit for 77 Roger Street for internally illuminated signs with the condition that we have LED lighting used at the pole lights.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Bailey?
Approved with conditions.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approved with condition.
Mr. Palio?
Approved with condition.
Mr. Peck?
Approve with conditions.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve with condition.
Okay, sir, been approved. Wish you the best of luck.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yep, thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. All right, next order of business is other business. Minutes for the meeting of October 16, 2014. Any comments, questions, changes? Hearing none, could I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of October 16th.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Mr. Bailey?
Approved.
Mr. McCarthy?
Approve.
Mr. Palio?
Approved.
Mr. Peck?
Approve.
Mr. Perrin?
Approve.
Okay, so Joe, next meeting, November 10th?
That's correct.
Okay. Anything else from any other members? Hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
So moved.